And this for me, and I think for many other people, is the discovery at the moment is that, I mean, I can go into a little story, if you like, which the listeners will probably appreciate. I think many of us have had experiences for many years of an awakening, let's say, of the mind, where, you know, perhaps for me I can say the first step was the recognition many, many, many years ago that the thoughts and the feelings and the expressions of this human being were not who I am. And that was quite profound. But then there comes a point where that's not enough. And then the next, again, it's my own experience, the next level that happened to me was there was, I suppose, what I would call an awakening of my heart, where there was more of a sense of being present physically in life and more connected.
Yes.
But then what you're speaking of seems to be even deeper than that. And I don't know that, I mean, I've certainly had moments where everything's disappeared and I've appeared in my consciousness to be everything and be everywhere, but they haven't lasted very long. Mm-hmm. I can remember sitting on one side of the room and being everywhere in the room and beyond the room. But, you know, within a day that was finished, if you like.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where I'm headed with this question, or even if it is a question. But to go to this absolute level of where there is just pure honesty and absolute truth, is it that this journey just continually unfolds?
It does. It does continually unfold. There's not an end to it. There's always whatever level you're awakening to, there's an evolution of that level. To go deeper than that, than what people commonly experience, requires awareness really coming to one point within, expanding beyond what they've ever experienced themselves to be. And to be able to sustain the experience of that requires a very real taking in of a cost. So if payment is made as awareness within the self for what is being realized, then that enables that reality within that's awakened to actually land within the person, within the self and within the person, and all the way through into an individual's life without that sort of cost being understood and paid. It's not landing really then in the self, because if something that you awaken to that's greater than yourself lands in the self, it will be at a cost to the reality of that self and the reality of that person. Often awakenings are experienced as a very pleasant thing, an expansion of heart or an expansion of mind, an expansion of perception of reality. And for something like that to land in the self in such a way that all the implications are realized of what that costs that self, and those implications are received in a very real way, then there would be a profound change of what that self will then be. It will be life-changing.
And when you say that... Sorry?
An individual's complete set of values will change. How they relate to value will change, even as a person. How a person carries themselves and carries himself in life, that will change, because this expanded reality is landed all the way through into their life. But it often isn't taken much further than the abstract, in such a way that still does protect the self. So it's all, these awakening experiences are all favorable, or generally favorable, for the self that's there. in that sense, it tends to be self-enhancing.
Clearly, you're seeing the world from a very different place to where I imagine I'm seeing it. Well, that's just my perception. And I'm wondering if you could share a little with us, particularly for those people that may not know who you are. What happened for you?
I opened up in a way that I didn't understand at the time the implications of, and that opening allowed me to be something that was far different than being a who. It was more like being a what, knowing what I am within and without, and at that time not really being able to tell the difference. And it was beyond any perception of reality than I had ever known or even imagined before. That was the beginning of it. That reality that I experienced lasted for about a year, and then it slowly faded away and seemed to have left without reason. It was after that I began searching for what that reality is. I thought it was not something that I could ever separate from, or that I could be separated from. So in the search for it, I knew that I had to be able to access what that reality really is for myself, and that took some time. In going through everything that I possibly could within, which was basically digging a well within and trying to uncover what it is within that I would be using to access this greater reality. And it was after seemingly exhausting everything that I was within that I came to a profound surrender of letting go of ever needing to have that reality. And that surrender was in an absolute sense. And that's when I ended up realizing again that whole reality, and not realizing that it was a surrender, that kind of profound surrender that had accomplished that. And since then, over the decades, there's been an entire evolution, a non-stop evolution of being that sort of reality.
That's very beautiful. It's interesting for me as I'm speaking to you, I'm actually watching myself trying to grab onto something to create some sort of a formula, and yet there's also an awareness that that's pointless, and there's also an awareness that I'm doing it. And
it's an understandable response. Because you relate from yourself, you relate to yourself. The biggest thing that's clear to you is the whole reality of yourself. And yourself being actually innocent is not responsible for the interference. And yet at the same time, there's a misunderstanding of what you are as awareness, and being within that self, that what you're wanting to respond to has nothing to do with yourself. It has to do with the resonance that you have within that is even deeper than yourself. As soon as you recognize that resonance doesn't come from yourself, then there's a relaxation and awareness into that resonance, which takes you past yourself and out of yourself. So then you'll be directly accessing what you as awareness are knowing within. So the access then is immediate. It's simple, and it's real for what you are as awareness. It's something that using yourself can't help, because that resonance doesn't come from yourself. So you'd be simply not using what it doesn't come from. So if you use what remains there that isn't your person, not your life, and not yourself, then you're left with the very reality that you were searching for. You're left being that, because that is all that remains.
And what is it that is the mechanism is that no pain for that actually seems to get in the way of that?
Needing to have it as a self, needing to secure an awakening within yourself and for yourself. And it's not necessarily understood as that within yourself, but that is the mechanism in yourself. If you simply respond to the resonance of something that you're knowing that has nothing to do with yourself, you relate to that resonance directly, then you enter into what it is that you're relating to. You're entering into direct knowledge, and that direct knowledge didn't come from yourself. But when you're wanting to secure that experience for yourself so that you can, as a self, continually experience that and be having that, then it will be a painful thing to be releasing yourself, because your reason for awakening or wanting to awakening within the mechanism is actually for yourself. So you would be undoing the very thing that you're wanting.
I see. That certainly hit something very deep and gone to another level. It's probably a good place to leave it.